The comment that I would make is, there is one sector that did very well during the Great Depression, and a lot of people are feeling that a second Great Depression is right around the corner. I would hesitate to opine on something like that, but I would say the odds are probably better than 50% that is in fact going to be the case. But what sector did well during the Depression, Eric? It was the mining sector.
Yeah, the mining sector did. I have my own mic. See,
you have your own. What a guy!
I'm a made guy.
Can I go home now?
Yeah, you can. You're out of here. The gold sector obviously did very well during the Depression, but you have to keep in mind. We all have to keep in mind that during that period, gold was not something that it wasn't traded in the strict sense of the word. I mean, government set the price of gold, so it was 20 at the start and 27.50 and then 35. But that's not because it was being bid up. It's because it was being reset by a government that had the printing presses going, because there was still a gold standard in the U.S. then. Although I do think the same thing. I think the market would do the same thing this time around, because the printing presses are running again. I'd like to think we'd learned enough in the last 60 or 70 years that the odds of an actual depression are actually fairly low. I think some of the things that caused the last one, I think we've got enough sense not to redo some of those mistakes. I mean, I've been somewhat heartened to see people get slapped down fairly quickly when they get really protectionist at the political level. Although personally, as someone, and I'm a big believer in China the same way as Lawrence is, I would be a lot happier if I saw those guys start cranking their currency up a little bit. It's a mercantilist country, and I understand they're not wanting to do that, but that they're not doing that increases the odds of protectionism elsewhere, and that's exactly the kind of shit you do not want to have start happening, because that's really what got the ball rolling.
Carter, we've got to edit that. We can't use that word on the radio. This will be on the air on about 27 different stations, and you used a nasty word. So we're going to have to cut. We've got to cut Eric out entirely.
So that's why I have my own mic now.
That's why you have your own mic, buddy.
Okay. Now I get it.
Roger, what do you think? And then let's let Keith opine on this thing too. Mr. Wiegand, what do you think?
In 1930s, there was one big gold company that did exceedingly well. We're wondering about how shares are going to do. Think about the old Homestake Mine Company. Roosevelt was confiscating gold and manipulating the prices and fiddling around to do anything they could to destroy the gold community. So Homestake, in their wisdom, probably quit selling gold. I can't remember that for sure, but get this and listen carefully. They were paying a dividend per share in 1934, 1935, $56 a share dividend. Think about it. These guys in New York today think $1 or $2 dividend is a big deal. They're paying $56 dividend on a mining stock in 1934-35. That was one of the best mines around. You might even want to compare that to Goldcorp GG right now in Canada. I think they could be the next Homestake.
Keith, agree or disagree? Could it be the next Homestake in your mind?
I don't follow the gold stocks enough to be able to say one way or the other on that one, but I would echo a couple points that the other speakers have made, is that with quantitative easing and low interest rates, I don't see a huge collapse in the markets. And frankly, if there's one thing I've learned over the last 18 months, is never underestimate the ability of the system to sustain itself. They have become masters. You might call them evil masters, you might call them geniuses, but whatever tag you give them, they've shown they're very, very adept at making things roll their way at the end of the day.
I would agree 100% with Keith Schaefer when he says, I wouldn't use the word markets, but I think we're saying the same thing. I would say human nature is incredibly resilient, and even if there is a collapse, we're certainly not going to see the end of the world or what have you. I want to get off on a different topic right now, and my topic it has to do with something that Roger brought up to me just a couple of hours ago. The euro right now is at 119.64. Roger feels that if the euro doesn't climb back up over 120 immediately, eminently might be a better word, that will begin to be the beginning of some type of financial collapse. What do you mean by that? And then let's get others' opinions on that one.
The euro currency is composed of a group of countries with unusually disparate economic platforms. Germany is really the engine of Europe. They pretty much are being relied upon to pull out Greece, Portugal, Spain, and all the others. The German taxpayers are saying we don't want to be the European paymaster. I think that the euro, having gone from 155 to 120, basically where it started some time ago, is in a very precarious position, and I'll tell you why. 120.00 is a major price, a major line in the sand for the euro. It's now trading slightly under, but I think the central banks are coming back and pump it on Monday. But there's several 100,000 put positions currency traders have on the euro under 120. I don't think they have been touched and opened yet, that some of them may have. And next Monday or Tuesday next week, we're going to find out, that being tomorrow and the day after, if in fact the euro cannot get back above 120 in a day or two. I think it can collapse at least 3 to 4 points, and that's going to terrify a lot of people, and it could set off a major system crash.
Anybody want to comment on that? While you're thinking about that, let me say that has very interesting implications in my mind for the price of precious metals. I don't think there's any question about that one. Anybody have any comments on that?
Roger, this is essentially based on trading.
Let me hand you this one, big guy.
I thought he was kidding. He really did cut me off. Jeez, never mind. I mean, 115 was about the average for the last 6 years or so. So, I mean, 120 is based on trading positions. I mean, that's essentially, okay, so basically the concern is you just kind of starts cascading. I mean, I guess it's possible, and yeah, I mean, it would freak people out, but I mean, at a more general level, the average value of the euro since about 2003 is around 115. I mean, 120 does seem to scare a lot of people, and it may be because of the option positions you mentioned, because there's nothing particularly special about that number outside of that. And in fact, given how things are over there, I think you can certainly make the argument it probably should be at parity to the U.S. dollar. I mean, not that the U.S. economy is anything to write home about, but you know, it's one's as much of a mess as the other, basically.
Yeah, one's as big a mess as the other. There's absolutely no question about that. We are down to about 2 minutes here. You know, I'm sorry we only have one mic, Keith. This is going over there with you with the we're down to about 2 minutes here. Anybody in the audience have any questions whatsoever that they want to bring up, ask these guys at all? No? I'm sorry? Come on up. I mean, I hate to do this to you, but we're groping here, man. Okay. Nathan, what do you got?
Well, I guess my question is to you guys is Jim Flatterly, the Canada Finance Minister, as the G20 meetings in, I guess, South Korea, and he announced to the IMF that he didn't want any country paying the bank tax, and he was actually able to win this as a success, and it seemed to be a big news story to a lot of people. Do you feel that this is going to be obviously a good thing? Do you think this is going to last? And do you feel the IMF is going to try to push this further?
I think the real reason why Flaherty, and I happen to agree with him, didn't like that tax, is because essentially he viewed the tax as, it's certainly in the sense of the Canadian banking system. Basically, what he was saying is, I mean, let's call it what it is. I mean, the tax is really supposed to be a form of insurance over time, and basically he was saying, why should the banking system in my country be paying for other guys, you know, for their mess ups? Why should we put the cost on a banking system? And obviously, they're going to put it onto their customers when they didn't do the stuff the other guys did. I think at a sub G20 level, I don't see European banks getting out from under this. I mean, there's countries like France. There's no way they're not going to put one in. I mean, they are going to put one in. Britain probably will. Germany probably will. The U.S. is leery about it, but I think it's going to get. They didn't really want to do it country by country, but some of those countries, it's such a big political issue I don't see him ducking it over there.
I don't see him ducking it either. Nathan, thank you very much for the question. We're out of time, you guys. I want to thank my friend Mickey Fulp, the Mercenary Geologist. Read his stuff. It's very, very interesting. Lawrence Ralston, I've been reading his stuff for over 20 years. I can guarantee you it's interesting and informative. Roger Wiegand doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. Keith Schaefer, on the other hand, does. New newsletter that he just started. It's very, very good. And then, in all seriousness, Eric Coffin is really the consummate pro. His stuff is very, very good. Obviously, I'm kidding about Roger. I read his stuff. He's on my show all the time. He's a very, very bright individual. You guys, thanks so much for coming.